Okay, we're back for the jerk. This one is another technical lift that has a lot of components, and you'll need to practice them individually to become very proficient at the lift. So it's another explosive powerlifting move, very ballistic kind of exercise. And where I think a lot of people have problems is the timing of the lift. So a lot of times they want to turn this into what we call the push press. So the push press is where you're utilizing a little bit of a knee dip, and as the bell goes up, your legs lock straight out. And that can be a great drill to start the progression with. Actually, we call that mill push press, and we'll cover that later. But you need to have the progression of that double dip. So from here, we're going to start the knees moving slightly forward in a bend. So you're dipping, and then as the bell is driving up, you are going to be ducking underneath of the bell. So that is the second dip and stand. So we have a double dip or two dips on the true jerk. All right, so from this position, we're going to get the bell up into the rack. There's two different ways you can hold the bell for the jerk. Now, they're trying to progress us into what we call the reverse clean. And that's where the position of the bell is kind of wedged between your palm and your body. And this already puts the bell in a nice position, so at the top of the jerk, it doesn't have to make that rotation around your wrist. It's already in position. So it just eliminates another point of fatigue. For some of you, it's going to take a lot of practice to get there, as it did with myself. So most of us will be in this position here. We'll talk about just shortly how we can practice getting in that reverse clean rack and holding. And eventually, you'll find your groove in that. So if you need to start from here, it's fine. But we need to talk about the progression of the bell on the way up. So if your bell is in the rack position, your resting point is really straight-legged, and you are going to be leaning back, tightening the glutes, and rounding your back around the bell. So this is the only time that I always say you should not practice perfect posture. So you don't want a bend to the knees, because this is going to allow the legs to fatigue in your resting position. So the hips are forward, the upper torso, if you can see my mid-back, will be kind of wrapped around the bell. So when I have the bell in hand, it is going to sit over the position of my hips. All right, so if I'm going to perform the bell from this position and or this position, I want to find an elbow connection with my torso. So that is going to give me the bump that I need to start propelling the bell upwards. So it's not going to be strictly a lower body dip and or the duck under. There needs to be the hips coming forward and driving the elbow off of the torso. So if we're in position, I do mine in a reverse grip now. I've practiced and it's starting to become more comfortable. At this position, I want to do an exhale, and then immediately I'm going to go into the lift where I'm shifting the knees forward, and I'm going to use a progression of how we talked about creating that wave. So I'm going to shift the knees forward, go up onto the balls of the feet, and at the same time, I'm inhaling on the way up while I'm lifting the rib cage. So it's as much the progression of the wave up the body from the feet to the knees to the hips as a lifting of the rib cage. And this is going to propel that arm right off of my body. And we'll practice chest bumps later. You don't know what you're in for, lots of fun. And then as this creates that weightlessness of the bell, so I can then duck under and come forward into this position here. So it's almost at the top like you are in ski boots. Your body is leaning forward. The position of the bell is over top of your hips. Then as the bell drops, you are going to absorb that by leaning backwards, Mostly you're going to absorb it with the spine, slight amount with the legs, but then you're going to get back into that locked leg position as your resting point. So you can take another breath at this point if you need to. And then from here you exhale, start the shift here. Inhale on the way up, your top position, you're leaning into the lift as if you were in ski boots. The center of the bell is going to be on the back of my hand, which will be positioned over the top of my hips. Then you can take another breath at the top if you want to, and then you're going to exhale on the way down, straighten the legs again, and this will be your resting position at the bottom. So I know it looks kind of funny, but I always call it my little T-Rex position, so I feel like I have the little short arms here. So when we practice the lift, then you can add the element of the bell in here. So as I shift into position, I may or may not choose to have my resting position with the bell in the traditional rack, and or I may get it into this position here. So see, my elbow is making connection with my torso. My upper body is wrapped around the bell. Actually, I like to bring my head forward. So when I actually perform the lift, I almost have to extend my head backwards, and it helps me get that progression of the wave going. So here we have an exhale. And then the head comes forward and through. So this is the top of the position here. As it comes down, I lean back slightly, then straighten the legs. So again, part of the absorption of the downward motion is allowing the exhale on the way down. The absorption happens mostly in the back, a little bit in the legs, and then back into that straightened position where the glutes are taking the strength underneath of you. All right, so the one thing we didn't talk about was meeting the bell on the way down. So once I get my bell up into position, here's the top of my lift. So as the bell's coming down, I want to come back up on my toes just slightly to kind of meet the bell. So from here, I'm going to come up and then back down to the heels and straighten the legs again. So I'm just coming to kind of meet it, a happy medium. Again, there's a lot of timing to this lift, so don't by any means think that I've got it all down yet, because I'm practicing, trying to improve my numbers and my technique so I have more stamina in the lift and I have much smoother transitions. So you yourself will practice as well. Some of you will get it very quickly, otherwise it will take, or some of you it will take a lot of practice. In a moment we'll be back to teach you how to break down the elements of the lift so you can practice them individually, and then you are going to progress in this lift a lot quicker once you get those down and then put them all together. So stand by.